Hi, my name is Winslet, and welcome to this week's Beginner's Guide. We're going to be talking about how to tame animals in Age of Wonders Planetfall. And before we get started, I just want to give a big shout out to Sudo Makes Sandwiches on Reddit. He created a thread on Reddit about a month ago where he talked about this. And when I posted my thread saying that I was looking for tips, he said that I could use any of the insights in that guide or in the comments that were left on it, which is super helpful for me. If you've got any questions or things that you'd like to add to my tips, to my guide, please feel free to leave them in the comments below or wherever is easiest for you. We're going to be looking at the three main benefits today, a couple general tips, and some caveats after that. All right, so we just hopped over to a different save to go over a couple of the main benefits. We will be hopping between a couple here and there to just kind of cover different strategies for different secret attacks that the Amazon have available to them. Or if you want, you could be playing an entirely different race and just using the Amazon's primal override operation. It's in the tree you get when you conquer somebody else. So yeah, other people can use this, but Amazon obviously get the most out of it, so it's more for Amazon than anybody else. If you go around casting that on animal units, then you can dedicate more of your cities to making their economy really strong. In this one, I made a lot of tier 5 agricultural things which don't have building upgrades, which make your units that you build in the colonies better. And there's a wide variety of options that you can take if you're not trying to build your own units in your colonies in terms of developing your stuff economically. I like the flexibility that this strategy provides you, and I think for that reason alone, it's very competitive. They did make Amazon a lot better with their animals in one of the more recent patches or updates. They made it so that the animals all get this primal override thing. Where is it? Animal discipline? No, that's not it. It's primal controller. This gives you plus 10% damage, plus 10% accuracy, and 2 shields. That is given to all animals that are underneath an Amazon commander's control. That plus 2 shields is a massive amount of defensive capabilities, and the other two things give you some nice offensive options. And I think in general it makes what are kind of okay or not very great units more competitive with the racial ones, or the ones that are available to the factions. I think because they put these guys out on spawners and such, they wanted to make it so that you could kind of farm them for XP without putting your core units at risk. At least that was the thought initially. But then once they saw that Amazons weren't getting much out of taming things, they gave them this really nice effect. I also really like that if you focus giving experience to the lower tier units, you can get access to a lot of tier 3 units fairly early on in the game, which you don't have to build in your colonies. It, I think, takes quite a bit of energy and cosmite to build any tier 3 units, so being able to save on that initial cost is massive, and then getting them with their mods from earlier is super nice. Right now we have 1, 2, 3 tier 3 units, and we'll be able to get more once this guy gets max XP or 40 XP, and same with this one. This one's actually pretty close, so we'll be able to get 4 tier 3 units before turn 50. That's a pretty big deal, because if you go over to the AI on the harder settings, they've probably got like 1 or 2 tier 3 units at this point in the game, so you'll have more attack power per unit, which is pretty big deal once you start to cluster more than 3 stacks near each other. You want to have lots of power concentrated in a couple units. Alright, so let's start talking about my general tips for making taming a little bit easier. Most of these have to do with the primal override operation. Because that's how most of you will get animal units. I do think there's another one in here, like Clone Predator, which is pretty nice. That's a strategic operation. That's another way to get animals in your space, but that's going to be coming later. Let's talk about the simpler stuff first, or the stuff you get access to first. In a lot of ways, Clone Predator is easier, but this is more accessible. This is the way most people will actually get their animal units that they go to tame. The first thing I want to talk about is just lowering damage resistance channels, all of them, and not just the bio damage channel. If you read here, you'll see that things that aren't sleep or entangled have an 8 bio strength chance of being mind controlled. If you use something like the Kirko's Noxious Bombardment, which is over here, I think, you can lower the resistances of all damage channels by 2. We haven't actually unlocked that yet, so I will just quickly use this to pull up that operation here. It's a strategic operation. Now we have this. We could use that right this second to lower their resistances and make it easier to get our thing to go through. I think I will just throw this down here to show the process. Now we don't know what the base chances of taming these guys are, but you'll have to trust me. This increased the odds of our stuff going through by 2 strength, which is a pretty complicated equation. We don't really need to talk about that. Just know that if you want this to go through, lowering their biochemical resistance will make it easier. If I go in and scan this guy, I can lower resistance even more. So he was at 95. This will take him to -2 more resistance. Yeah. Which will make it 100%. I think higher tier units are slightly harder to control like this, so yeah, just having ways to lower damage resistance in general is super good. It'll make the fight a lot easier. You don't have to just use biochemical damage to get to take advantage of that stuff. But the Amazon do have a lot of things that actually specifically target bioresistance, so we'll be talking about that very soon. Yeah, there's other ways to just lower resistance in general, like the Xenoplague's parasitic infection. I'm not sure if he's got it on him or she's got it on her pestilence thing. And she does have parasitic infection, but it doesn't tell you what it does. So yeah, it's something that's available to them pretty early on in the game. Xenoplague pairs really well with the Amazon because of the parasitic infection. Parasitic infection. Yeah, reduces damage resistance by 1, and I think that can't stack. So yeah, that plus other things can make it easier to tame things by quite a bit. If you're near a nuclear fallout zone, I think we had one on the map for our friend here. Yeah. There was this thing right here, which also reduces damage resistance by 2, I think. This, yeah. Yeah, -4 damage resistance, which makes the fight just go a lot quicker. You're going to want offensive units in fights like this, but it also makes it easier to tame things. So if an animal just happens to be in the zone where there's nuclear fallout, or there's like a wandering marauder stack, attacking them there is a great way to actually make it easier to tame those higher tier units. You can't do tier 3 units through the primal override, but you can get some very nice tier 2 units or things that evolve into tier 3 units pretty quickly by taking advantage of this mechanic here. Alright, so the next thing that's worth talking about is things that specifically affect the bioresistance. The Xenoplague have the fungal spore cloud, which I could drop in here. I think, yes, this thing right here works a bit like that other hazard, but instead of just all damage resistances, this is for specifically making the bio resistance go down. Non-Xenoplague units suffer -2 bio resistance, which will make it easier to tame things. I think if I go and attack here, it's going to be like the same effect as if when we used the Noxious Bombardment, the Kirko thingy. Just go in here and be like, yeah, sure, whatever, come forward. So if I wanted to do this, yep, it's the same numbers we were seeing earlier because the resistance was lowered by 2 in the channel that we need in the bioresistance channel. Biochemical maceration is a pretty good way to get their resistance down even further. No, we've unlocked it. Just might take me a second to find it in here. There it is. So this is a biochemical thing. It's not limited to just Amazon. I think the Kirko can also do this, but it lowers the bioresistance by 3. Pretty nice. If it goes through, then it'll make taming a lot easier. I think they actually, you didn't resist, so yeah, it'll be easier to tame. It does cast an operation, which will make it harder for you to try and tame as many units. It might be hard for me to tame them without killing off a unit, or having to kill off a unit. But yeah, now that's 100%. That's pretty good odds on a tier 2 unit. So yeah, you keep that in mind when you're trying to tame things. Biochemical maceration might make it easier to get that going through, but you probably don't want to be spending too much energy and points on that. Yeah, if you want, you can always sleep units like this. He's been sleeped, and that'll make it easier to get this to go through. There's other ways to do it. So yeah, that's actually tip number 3 is sleeping. You want to try and do that if you can. The Biomancers have that ability, but there's other ways to sleep. I don't know another one off the top of my head, but they're not the only units that can put things to sleep. There's definitely guns that have that modifier or the ability to apply that debuff, as well as I think some hero skills or something like that. Just making them unconscious isn't good enough because this skill checks to see if they're sleeping. Sleeping is different than being unconscious. If you want to bring in multiple Biomancers to kind of scan and sleep, or sleep multiple times in a turn, that sounds like a great way to keep units from attacking yours while you're trying to get them tamed. Usually what I do is I scan a guy and then put them to sleep and then try to tame them. That seems like a pretty good combination for the Biomancer and the Primal Override in general. Now, another thing you can do is use Entangle. I think because we've taken their chances all down to 0. Or 100%. Oh no, you're still at 95. We could entangle you with this guy to prove that the odds go up if you're entangled. So you're now slightly easier to tame. Yay! If they're entangled, then it's going to be 4 points easier to get it to go through. It's not an 8 strength chance; it's now a 12 strength chance. And its bioresistance had been lowered pretty significantly. One interesting thing about Entangled is it is a kinetic debuff. It has to do a kinetic strength chance to see if the mind control is easier to get the Entangled, which makes mind control easier. So the things that lower their biochemical resistance won't make it easier to entangle. Things like maceration, the thingy, biomatter maceration, biochemical maceration, that won't make it easier for entangle to go through. If you want to try and use a void tech hero with access to, I think it's dimensional instability. Oh yeah, it will lower their kinetic resistance, making it easier for Entangle to go through. But not a whole lot easier. It's just something that you need to keep in mind if you're gonna try it out. It is nice though because it's like an AoE, which can lock down melee units really effectively, and a lot of animal units that you face are melee. So yeah, it's like this guy can't move and do anything on this turn because he's only got a melee attack and he's been entangled. So it can serve multiple roles. I think if it was a biochemical check, that there'd just be almost too much focus on that channel, to the point that it would be maybe too good. And that's probably why the developers built these units out this way. Scan and other things that just lower damage resistance, and all their channels will help Entangle to go through, so keep that in mind too. I think bleeding may have a similar effect. I'm not 100% sure about that. Yeah, actually bleeding also reduces resistance, and there's a lot of animal units that apply bleeding with their melee attacks, so yeah, another thing to keep in mind. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about having operations points. Right now you can see I have 13 of 14. That's because I used some hacks, or cheats, not hacks, to give myself the resources that I needed to test out things properly and to show things off. You only start off with 2 operations points without any research invested into it. So if you want to use Primal Override, you're going to need to unlock more points. I think it usually costs 4 points. For some reason it's saying 3. That might be due to what I have equipped in terms of doctrines or something along those lines. It should really say 4 unless I'm remembering this one wrong. Maybe they reduced it to 3, which would be cool because it'll make it easier to cast that over and over again. It does have a lot of energy involved in that process, so if you don't have a lot of energy, having those extra operational points isn't as useful. You want to try and get Primal Override and using it as early as possible, because then you'll be able to evolve units and get more units on the battlefield than your enemy can, because they're having to build yours where you can just kind of grab them off of stacks here and there. So yeah, you need to invest your research in the right paths early enough, or else you're gonna really punish yourself, because if you only have enough energy and not enough operational points, you can't use this. If you only have enough operational points and not enough energy, yeah, it's the same either way. You're gonna need a little bit of both, as well as you're gonna need to go down the right research tree to get there. I think I can pull that up really easily here, just to show you how far down the tree you have to go. Alright, so it's not that far down here actually. This operation, I thought I was remembering it being in this, but yeah, it's only there. You can research this, and this can be your second technology that you go for, which is fine if you have a strong enough economy. You're going to need to grab this thing to grab you some more operations points to use if you are going that route. Okay, so let's talk about another way you can get animals. We're ready to talk about Clone Predator. I have a save in here, which they will just clone. There, this one. This one we may load up a couple times just to show off the units that you can get. I like the tier 3 units that you get from here. This is a nice one. It's a psychic attack unit, and I think when it reaches its last point HP, there may be something fancy that happens with them. I can't remember exactly, but they're very nice. Complete immunity. That's nice. But yeah, if I remember correctly, this one's just really hard to deal with in fights. or misfortune, and just make it so that you are more likely to fumble your attacks. But yeah, I don't think you can get any units that evolve into this, so if you want that unit, you can actually get it through the cloning thing. It's something that I didn't play around with very much because of how far down it is in the tree of technologies. Where are you? Is this it? Clone Predator, yeah, it's a tier 7 technology. Takes a lot of research to get there, but I think it is worth going for if you know, you're playing player versus environment. Player versus player, it's kind of too late to be super competitive, so maybe not. Maybe don't go for that. I know you can get a Mega Beetle Adult, a Thunder Maw, which are both really, really nice. Of course, we'd summon in the same unit here, so you're gonna have to take my word for it. It does a dice roll to see what you get. You may even be able to get the Voradon. I like that unit a lot. I'm not sure if that is one you can get, but I know you can get this one. I summoned it in earlier. It goes insane at a certain point. It can regenerate. Yeah, it's all around very, very deadly and hard to deal with because it's got. I thought I had a ranged attack in here. Am I remembering this wrong? Do you have the ranged attack? It could be that these guys are different than what I remember. But they're still quite nice. Being able to concuss units is very nice. As well as, yeah, the Mega Beetle. Just got a ranged attack, 2 to 7. That's a pretty long range attack for an animal unit. It's one of my favorite units because of that reason right there. The adult beetle death rattle is, yeah, something you don't really want to have happen unless you have the that mod that brings them back after they die. That is relatively easy to get if you're taming animals, but if you get it through a clone thingy, then yeah, this is something you probably want to keep a little bit further back and take advantage of the beetle more. Okay, Hair Taurus. Let's go take a look at that one. So Hair Taurus, Amazons have the ability to use mind possession. They can put this special thing on their drained units, the empowered drain, which makes it so that they can dominate tier 3 units. So if you see an animal you really, really want, you just put it on, you put that mod on a drained. Where'd you go? No, you're around here somewhere. You got so many mods, it's hard to find. Empowered drain. So you just put that on a unit. You go find something like a Borodon, and you can take control of an incredibly powerful animal unit. I probably only recommend doing this as an Amazon, although it makes sense to do it as a different one because these animals can be really nice. The tier 3s can be super, super nice, but you can use on any tier 3 unit, so maybe taking it that taking a tier 3 unit away from your enemy would be a better use of that ability. But I don't know. This guy's got a lot of nice things going for it, like Frenzy, Devour, super nice, just instantly kills some of the smaller biological and cyborg units. The claw attack is also quite good. You know, just yeah, in general, this guy's very strong, and I love the idea of taking him or any other tier 3 unit over, any tier 3 animal unit over. I think you can also use this with shepherds. Oh, because this is a save from before shepherds, I can't actually pull them up here. That's a weird thing about the Imperial stuff. The Imperial archives don't seem to be able to go back in time and look at things that have been added to the game. You can't, I don't know if that makes sense. You can't find things like this that were added more recently in older saves. So yeah, this guy, he's not an animal, but he pairs super well with animals. He's a mutant, He's kind of like the Therians, and when he lowers, when he's lowered below a certain amount of HP, he can attract one wildlife unit to near him. That's randomly generated, and there's also something that revives biological units, so you could use that on any animal unit to get them back from the dead, as well as just some really, really nice things. This evolves a target through metamorphosis. So yeah, that honestly right there, that growth ray is right one of the best things you can get as an Amazon commander. If you can get a shepherd to just evolve things, yeah. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Okay, so now we're going to be talking more about just general tips, just less specific ones. If you want to get animals, you're going to need to do manual combat, because for whatever reason the AI almost never casts that spell. It's one of the best ones in the game, so I'm not sure why the devs haven't upped that, the likelihood of them going for it. Maybe it just make the AI too good, the Amazon AI too good. It would be like twice as good as any other commander out there, twice as hard to defeat. You can get animals as rewards for clearing out spawners, like the quartzite spawners. There may be one around here that I can get to easily to clear out. Yeah, you're a wildlife spawner. Can I get to you in one turn? Have I unlocked this? I have. So that was already on. If I take this out and make an animal as a reward, I did not, which is very sad. But every once in a while, things like that will give you an animal, and it's a nice way to yeah, increase the number of animal units you have on your side. This is one of the best animal units that you can get. It doesn't evolve, but it's very nice to have in the army. Okay, the growth. Do we have any growth on this map? Not that we can see. The growth have some bee units, which are super useful. The soldier bee and the worker bee are also animals, so incredibly good for Amazon players. Still pretty good for any other player. I love how this guy heals, but because he's got a melee attack, the auto combat generally doesn't use this unit very well. It gets it killed off pretty quickly. It's not very tanky. It's more of a support unit, but the AI doesn't really know that. And they're cheap. They're pretty easy to buy if you see the growth on the map. I don't think we actually have the growth here, do we? If I had to guess, it doesn't look like we have them. No, it looks like spacers and maybe only spacers. But yeah, I guess I can show off basically what that interface looks like when you try to interact with a faction. I'm sure most people know them, but yeah. Just to show off how you get animals, you'd come into this screen and you would ask for them through this option right here. All of the mineral units have a weakness to biochemical. If I click on this, it's got biochemical weakness, so it's easier to get your tames to go through on them. They're super nice because this one goes from tier 1 to tier 3, and this tier 3, it has a ranged attack. So nice. So nice. One of my favorite attacks in the game because it's only got a cooldown of 1. That just means you can't use it every turn. You can use it every other turn unless you find a way to reset it, which probably isn't the best use of a reset, but I like it enough. I could see why you'd want to just constantly be barraging people from far away. The veteran background on your commander helps you evolve units faster because it gives you more XP. The veteran perk will give you 15% more XP on every unit, so in those bigger fights that really adds up very quickly to allow you to get your guys to prime rank and evolve just that much quicker. There's another way you can get more XP if you're playing as a what's it called? You're playing as Amazon, which we should be on. I'm not sure why we're on a Kirko here, but we are. Yeah, you can use advanced military something rather to give them more XP. That's not it. Here it is. All animal and mounted units get extra morale, which makes it easier for crits to go through. They get extra HP and 50% more XP gain. So that's a lot. That's a big boon. It's much more than the 15% that the commander perk that you take at the beginning of the game gives you, but I believe it stacks, so you'll be able to evolve units very, very quickly. Yeah, I like it a lot for that reason. And keep in mind, once they're evolved to tier 3, the AI is not going to be able to steal them off of you nearly as easily unless they have drained with that specific mod on them, which I've never seen the AI do. I don't think they can grab it off of you. It's going to be very powerful and on your side for a long, long time. Mega Beetles, they get a really nice perk, which I'm not going to be able to see very easily on this save. Or rather, they get a really nice mod, which I'll be able to pull up with this one. I know I had some units, I was just playing this earlier today, so it shouldn't be too hard for me to find some Mega Beetles with the thing that I want to talk about. So yeah, when you tame them from the wild, you'll probably get this thing, the Minor Infection X, which I believe is something only neutrals can get until you tame one, and then you can take that and put it on other things. This only goes on biological and cyborg units. Does that mean I can put them on him? No, I think it can only be applied to things like this, but it's in our template, so we can apply it to any Mega Beetle that we get. So yeah, it's just nice in general being able to get them back after they die in battle. They'll deal more damage. They'll have a little bit less defenses, but that's okay because you'll probably be able to heal them up again. And I think it carries through to the evolved version, which I have here. Yeah, he has that one still, so yeah, quite nice to get if you can get it on your units. If you play on higher difficulties, there'll be higher tier units on all the locations that you go to fight, which means you'll get more experience and units will evolve quicker. You'll be able to get those tier 3 units probably out faster than the AI can, even with all the bonuses that they get. And lastly, the last general tip we're going to go over is any commander can tame animals after conquering an Amazon city. They just need to switch over to the Amazon tab here and go for this operation. It's just better for Amazons to do. Alright, so it is now time to start talking about the caveats or important considerations when it comes to taming animals. We only have a couple of them, so it shouldn't take too long to get through. The first one is all of the tier 3 animals emphasize melee or are melee only, so air units will be a problem. You will probably need to get something to help with that weakness, like a couple ranged units to shoot things from far away. And you can just kind of kite people around with your tanky animal units if you're lucky. But they themselves won't be able to do a lot of damage. You probably won't want to put a melee hero with them unless you give that melee hero a ranged attack like a repeating launcher, like the bio launcher, I think it's called. I think that one repeats. Yeah, it's got a cooldown of 2, so you can use it every 3 turns. To do quite a bit of damage to some flying units. They probably won't stack up in a way that allows you to do a lot of damage to them, or to multiple units, but you may be able to apply poison and get some staggering off, which will keep them further away from your other units. But there are other things you can do, like give them the Consuming Gaze mod to allow your melee heroes to to be able to attack with a little tiny ranged attack. Yeah. Next one is animals typically have no shields and high armor. Most of them start with no shields. The base value or the base version of them has no shields. These guys all have shields because they've been modded, and you get a little bit of that from the primal controller. But if I just like look up quartzites, you'll see this guy's, yeah, they're getting 2 shields from the primal thingy. I think because I'm an Amazon, but they don't start off with anything. And I think that is the case for pretty much all animals. I'm not sure about Misfortune now. He actually does come with a little bit of shields, but in general, the animal units are going to be weak to psionic damage. I guess this guy's kind of there to round them out and give them, well, psychic damage as a damage channel that they can deal, but also they've got some ways to deal with psychic attacks if they do happen to get up to him. Of course, this guy's weaker to melee because of that, but that's okay. He's pretty powerful. Should be okay, and melee against most units. Yeah. So if you can give yourself more shields or psychic resistance, like the mind control thingy, mind barrier, I think it is, that the Psyfish sell, then you should probably get that on your animal units. I mean, 2 shields by itself is pretty nice. Giving psychic resistance to people who have low shields in general, very, very nice. And yeah, also this resistance to psionic status effects can be good too. Maybe if you're going against a Cynambra who applies a lot of Broken Mind, Catatonic, and all those other nasty debuffs, psychic debuffs, this could be very, very nice and very useful for you. There was somebody who mentioned that training pugs as Amazons can be a little bit tricky. It requires you to take out a Vanguard settlement, but if you do, you'll be able to reset your quartzites so that they can keep throwing their boulder attack. You can only use this once per battle, but I think you'll be able to kill most units off with 2 barrages from the quartzites when they use the skill. This one's Sling Art Crystal, but it's a nice ranged attack that all of the tier 3 quartzites have. I think there's only 2 I'm thinking of right now, but there may be a 3rd type that I'm forgetting. Okay, next one is, because Primal Override is so expensive, you're not going to want to tame every animal. You're going to want to pick ones that benefit you the most, usually ones that evolve into tier 3 units. I think the Wild Harrier doesn't, but it's still a pretty nice unit because it will give you some aerial offense. It's also pretty rare that flying units have melee. A lot of melee units don't have shields, or rather they focus on shields over armor, so you can get through the shields with melee. So yeah, I like having this guy in an army to kind of round it out and give it some anti-air capabilities. If you're not fighting against things that are aerial, I don't know. It's a little bit open to getting shot out of this guy. But yeah, I like the Hopper Hounds, the red Hopper Hounds. The green ones just take too long to level up. The Manhunter ones, they well, it's not that they take too long. You have to level them up to get them to be the never seen the hatchlings, to be the red ones, and then you have to take the red ones through another round of XP to get them to become the tier 3 unit. It's better to get the quartzites or the mega beetles because they go from tier 1 to tier 3. It's, instead of going to tier 2, you go to tier 3, which is much nicer. But yeah, I recommend getting the mega beetle babies, the quartzite units, the Thundermaw Swarmlings, and the red Hopper Hounds. They're tier 2, so you can just tame this one, and it will take a little bit longer to get them to tier 3, but I think this unit is very good. It's very strong compared to some of the other tier 3 units. Yeah, I'm trying to remember how you get this now. I have no idea. If it doesn't come from this unit, where does it come from? It'll be a mystery. If you know, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. But we haven't pulled up the Thundermaw, have we? the Swarmlings turn into the Sky when they get enough experience, which is a very strong unit. I think we pulled them up earlier. It doesn't. Oh, it's a 3 hex cone. That makes sense. So it is a ranged attack. It just, when you look at it initially, it doesn't look like a ranged attack. It's quite a nice little ability to be able to take advantage of. This one doesn't look like it's a cone, so no range on the Swarmling, just range on the tier 3 version. I would avoid the Swift Beaks. I don't like them. They just aren't tanky enough. They only have a melee attack, which is okay if you don't get staggered. You can get close enough, maybe get some flanking attacks in, but in general I find that putting XP into this guy isn't worth it because he doesn't evolve once he hits prime rank. He just, stops getting experience and getting better. So yeah, I found in general I don't like them a whole lot, and for similar reasons I don't like the Mega Sow. This guy has a single attack which is really not strong, but you have to close a distance, which is going to be kind of tricky with this guy being a larger target. People will be able to shoot him and do quite a bit of damage. Of course, consuming is great because it will give you healing and give you fast movement, as well as a buff to your damage. Yes, so it's a decent unit, but not the best one. I think it's worth taming this unit in certain situations if you want to have something that's tanky and can heal up, but not everything can be consumed. It's only biological and cyborg. If you're going against a lot of mechanical units, then you can't consume them and you can't keep this guy tanking a lot of damage. This is okay. Poisoning units that are near it is kind of nice. But yeah, the Piglet turns into that one, which means I would pass on the Piglet. Skitter's nice, but once you get it fully ranked up, he's just going to turn into a Mega Sow, which is not that great in my opinion. So, I think I have at least one more thing here. Alright, yeah, the last thing we're going to talk about is healing. A lot of, well, not a lot, the quartzites will have a little bit of issue healing because they're not biological. Other things that are biological, they can get healing from biomancers and such. I believe we have a biomancer around here. Yeah, his healing thing is for biological and cyborg. So mineral units, they're not going to be able to get healed quite as easily, and that means that the secret tech that you pair with your Heritor, or not your Heritor, your Amazon player, or really any other type of commander, it's pretty important. Celestians, for example, they have a lot of nice healing things that don't require things to be biological. Yeah, let's actually take a second to pull those up. Okay, so Celestian Amazon can heal the animal units, the mineral animal units, using Cleansing Light. It does more healing for every light unit that you have in the stack, so if you have a lot, that's a lot of healing. If not, it's still some healing. It's not terrible, and I would consider getting this if you're going to be taming a lot of mineral units. There's also a Tactical Operation, which heals your unit based on how many enlightened people are in the battle. It goes up to 30 HP, so it's decent. It's relatively cheap. You can do that to heal up your units, but I don't know. I may not spend a tactical point and 25 energy on that. It's debatable. So Promethean commanders have this really nice mod here, which can be used to heal any unit for 15 HP, as well as removing any non-psionic status effects. And it also affects the sorry, that's not good. Right, so I remember why I had this save prepared for taming animals. This Kirko player can conquer an Amazon player and then get access to their decks to tame animals. But another thing that I wanted to mention is if you take a Vanguard settlement, you get access to the nanite injectors, which can be applied to any unit. meaning you can put them on your mineral units to get that 15 HP heal, as well as some increased resistance to all damage channels. This is one of my favorite mods in the game, and yeah, given that mineral units have limited access to healing, this is a great way to give them healing as well as make them just a little bit tankier. It's a tier 1 tech, so you might as well if you can. Oh, and you can use pugs to heal them. I believe if we just bring up the pug thing, which has a healing charge, that can just target a friendly unit to heal, so that's pretty useful. Void Tech commanders have access to one of my favorite units in the game. This phase manipulator can evacuate a friendly unit, healing it 25 HP, giving it 1 shield, and bringing it right next to it, adjacent to the unit. So if you bring this guy somewhat close to the battle, but still like 8 away from where the fighting's actually happening, 8 hexes away, you can pull a unit out and heal them up that way. As well as use this to abduct any units away from the fight. If you abduct a melee unit that has no ranged attacks, that's not going to be able to attack this phase manipulator. It's a flying unit, so it'll just hang out above, and that's gives you a lot of strategic flexibility. So yeah, I'd definitely consider using that if you've got access to it as a Void Tech commander. Xenoplague commanders can heal up units using plague pods. This one, rather. It says right there that Xenoplague units in the area are instead healed for 12 points. That includes people with Xenoplague mods. If you put this on a animal unit, then it gets hurt. You can use any unit with plague pods. It could be another animal unit with plague pods to heal up the injured one. It's quite nice because if you're in melee range with a enemy and the guy needs healing, and one of your guys, the ones that's in melee range needs healing, you can throw a plague pod on them to heal up and stagger an enemy. So very, very powerful, and also can apply parasitic infection, which we talked about earlier. Makes it easier to tame animals. Super strong. They also have some other nice things that pair well with melee, but we're not trying to talk about that right now. We're talking about healing. Cynumber commanders have access to something called Gift of Oblivion. It is, where are you? There you are. It gives you psionic drain, healing a unit every time they attack a non-mindless unit, which is most of the units, and giving you a increased damage. I was looking around at all the other things, and there's no other thing that gives you healing, so I think this is your best option if you're going to be playing Cynumbra Amazon. But I could still see people saying that no, Gift of Oblivion is just not good enough. It only heals you a tiny bit each attack. It's not a much, it's not a lot, rather. Psionic Drain? Yeah, it gives you 6 HP per hit on mindless units. If you got a repeating attack, that's better than non-repeating. But still probably not the best. You can't put Consuming Gaze on animal units. I believe that one is right here. Can go on infantry and mounted units, so not on animals. Kind of sad. Alright, so Amazon commanders, they have access to a pretty nice operation. It is only a tier 3 tech, and yeah, it's a tactical operation which will heal a friendly unit for 15 HP. If they have an essence charge, it turns that into 30 HP and dispels all hostile status effects at the cost of the essence charge. It basically turns the essence charge into more HP and the ability to dispel. I like that ability. I think if you've got some mineral units that are starting to take damage and aren't able to revive after they die, this will be a great way to heal them back up to full HP. A lot of the quartzites only have, I think, 25 HP at, without any ranks, any level ups. So yeah, it could help you keep them alive and leveling up until they become those nice powerful tier 3s. So worth keeping in mind, and yeah, using every once in a while to keep your guys going. And that's everything I wanted to say about taming animals. If you've got anything you want to add, please feel free to let me know in the comments below or however is easiest for you. And yeah, if you got any ideas for future videos, I'd also love to hear what you're thinking. See you around. Have a good one.